Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
So this is the inaugural episode of Super Pulp Science, where we're going to talk about super pulpy science things that I like and Justin likes. And we have brought a very special guest for our first episode, the person who's actually going to teach us all about how to do podcasts on our first podcast, Dan Vadeboncoeur, who's here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well,
absolutely.
Thanks for coming to the giant mess. What people can't see is our studio has been turned upside down and shaken twice. We have canvases all over the floor and art in piles and a huge mess because we're prepping for a comic show and an art show, which are going to happen in 2 weeks, over the next 2 weeks. So thanks for putting up with the mess.
Nah, it's nothing. Nothing. I have kids, so I'm used to that kind of stuff. not to say you guys are like children or anything that, but like
I have kids too. My kids made this mess.
That's right. That's right.
Are there more toys in here than the kids have? Maybe two?
Probably, yeah. But you guys have like the impressive collection of toys that you're not allowed to touch, which I don't dare. I would love to collect that stuff, but I don't dare because my kids are going to want to play with it. My friend Kenton, who co-hosts a Star Wars podcast with me, we do weekly. He has a huge collection of Star Wars toys. And I'm like, I can't do that. I wish I could.
Well, my big fear, because I have two children, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, was that I would bring. Justin has a large collection of Ashley Wood super robots, and I was very worried that they would ruin them. But Justin is so chill about his stuff. He just sort of shrugs, like if something comes loose or something is what he goes, whatever, toys should be played with. So.
We're up in a household with 5 other siblings, so you really couldn't grow attached to anything in particular.
Science.
One of the things we're going to do today is make sense of the mess. This is our first podcast, and so Dan has very graciously volunteered to teach us the ropes of podcasting and to explain a little bit to us about how podcasts work and why they work and where his podcasts work, how long he's done it, all those sorts of things as a way of lifting the veil. One of the things we're going to do in this show, what I hope to do in this show, is to share some of the creative processes that we use to make things here in the studio. And one of the things we're making in the studio now is a podcast, so it seems like a good place to start. Why podcasts, Dan?
We have this discussion in class a lot. I teach at the university, whatever. I teach at Red River College in the creative communications program, and I teach a lot of radio-related and audio production type of courses. And we have this conversation about the radio industry and where it's going and what kind of competition is out there for it. And certainly podcasting is a much more mainstream thing now than it was even 5 years ago. And every time I talk to somebody about it, everybody has a list of podcasts that they listen to and download. And it's growing, and it's a great medium for those who like to consume media this way. For those who like to listen, it's a great medium. And some people like to watch videos, some people like to read print, some people like to read comic books. But for this type of medium, podcasting is a great way to communicate your brand and your ideas.
Is that kind of stuff. Especially like, I don't know if this is, I noticed like just more the creative community love, like we have a lot of work where it's kind of grunt work where we don't really have to be thinking or concentrating too hard. We just have to be working. So listening to podcasts just goes so well with, if you have to paint for 4 hours, you listen to 4 hours of podcast.
Once the hard thinking work of the composition is done, it's just doing the composition, and so putting in the podcast. So then maybe, do you think, Dan, that podcasts fit into that same arena that, say, Uber does or Airbnb, in that people are buying their time back? Like those kinds of services succeed and have started to explode, I think, largely because it gives you time back that you didn't have before.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we listen to these podcasts, and it gives us an ability to learn and be educated and give that time back to us. Instead of losing it in the grunt work of cleaning the studio, we instead spend that time learning all about, I'm a big fan of Adventures in Design, the podcast.
Yeah.
So whenever I have really crappy work to do at the studio, I put that on loud and I tell myself I'm at least learning something.
Well, that's the cool thing about podcasting is it's very niche, and you can basically find a podcast for everything and whatever you want. So what it's done is it's fragmented like mainstream television has, whereas like maybe a decade ago you would have put on, if you don't like music, like most people like music, but if you like listening to talk as opposed to music, you might put on like a talk radio station in the background while you're doing your work. That's always been there. But podcasting allows you to break down. I want to listen to a podcast about design, so I'm going to listen to that one.
Right.
I'm going to listen to a podcast about Star Wars, about Indiana Jones. So you can really kind of choose whatever you want to listen to. You have much more choice out there than you did.
So different than radio. Here in Winnipeg, there's, a half a dozen radio stations at least that are sort of in the mainstream, but they seem to target the everyman most of the time. Whereas with the podcast, you're saying drill down deep into the niche of your idea.
Absolutely, yeah. Radio stations need to go broad appeal. They need to try to attract as wide an audience as possible in order to satisfy their advertisers. So no such pressure here.
But does,
we're not making any money on this, but that's
here's
okay.
a question for both of you then. Do you think that the minutia of it becomes self-serving and it's, it just like too many podcasts feed egos?
Maybe.
Do you think there's a danger in that? Like if I just bring people in to talk about only what I think is good, is there a danger as a person trying to start a podcast of losing listeners? Like is there I don't think there's a magic formula, but maybe you found one.
I think part of what you do is you're yourself, right? You be yourself, and people either like you or they don't.
Yeah,
and
take it or leave it, right?
Yeah. They're not gonna. They tune into the podcast, or tune in, whatever. That's an old term. They download or stream the podcast because they like you, they like your work, presumably, and that's what's going to keep them listening. It's not about. Of course, you want to make it.
Or haters. Do you think there's a lot of haters that listen?
Well, somebody once told me I was when I worked at CJOB. My boss there used to be the producer for Charles Adler, who used to be a well-known talk radio host, national. He's kind of like the Canadian Rush Limbaugh in a lot of ways. And he said the people who hated Charles Adler listen as much as the people who love him.
That's what I felt. I had a love-hate relationship. I used to listen to a lot of Adler, and mostly, like every now and then, he would bring on an insightful guest, and it would kind of clear the air. But for the most part, I was always surprised at what an angry old codger he was.
No, I know, but it was a persona. It was absolutely persona. I met him a few times in the studio. Very, very nice guy. Gave me some very encouraging words as a young broadcaster, and I think he's still doing a show out of Vancouver now. He's doing like a satellite show or something. I don't know. I guess in this age, we have this whole choose your own news kind of thing where people will listen to what they like. So maybe we won't get as many haters. People who don't like your work or your opinion will just rather turn you off and listen to a podcast that does agree with their opinion.
Right.
Which is a real danger as well, right? Because you want to get a diverse set of opinions out there, and it's part of the whole, fake news cycle and people in their bubble, and we're not getting enough of the opposing view in a lot of cases.
Right.
So that does happen.
Attention, citizens.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw back the veil here and talk specifics of the technology that we're using here to make our podcast work. We all have a microphone in our hands with these long cables that connect into some strange esoteric box, which connects into a laptop.
It's got a purpose.
So why don't you give us the tour?
Okay, so we're just using, and this is I bought this on Amazon. Sorry, Justin, you need more cord there. By the way, these cords are very long, and that's because I never know. I could have gone for a shorter cable, but I didn't know what kind of applications I was going to be using this for, so I wanted to get one with some range. I have a small mixer here, which ran me about, I want to say, $100 and something for that. The microphones were another $100, so probably about $250 for the whole thing with taxes. And it's plugging in by USB cord to my laptop, which is just a MacBook Pro, running Adobe Audition, which is the recording software. And that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward. Anybody who knows anything about audio equipment will recognize this stuff. So it's nothing fancy. And I've even seen, I used to use, when I first started doing this, as far as a remote kind of location, because we do record at the studio at the college a lot of the time, we had a Yeti microphone, which is a very popular kind of USB microphone of good quality. A lot of game streamers use that for their Twitch streams and stuff, and that was pretty good. But I find that nothing beats like a pure directional microphone. Like you're just talking right into it. It cuts out all the extra noise. If we were in a crowded place right now, we wouldn't get a whole lot of the noise around us. It would just be the voice.
So this setup is fairly portable. As long as you have power, you just
I just need power. So if you wanted to go go to do a podcast from your table at a con or something like that, you could absolutely do that.
So
provided you pay for the power.
For that. Yeah,
I hear the power is pretty expensive over at the convention center.
Power's crazy at shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that a thing that you guys see across the board when you go to shows across
everywhere? Two things that they charge to the nose for: power and internet.
Yeah. And
which just blows me away, because that, to me, that's just like the two things you need the most, right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe not for you guys for your setup, or you learn to adapt, but it would sure be nice to have that stuff.
And even if you do get on the Wi-Fi, enough people have bought it to bog it down. So I've paid well over $100 for internet at a show.
2-day show.
Yeah, only to have it like barely work.
Oh, that's awful.
Because everybody's buying it and everybody's using it, and it so it's terrible. And we have friends who need electricity, but they don't want to pay for it. So they lug around like a huge Canadian Tire, like charge your car, like restart your car.
Yeah, I've got
like
one of those, yeah.
And they've modded it out with even more battery. I don't know. It looks,
Yeah, they had an
it looks
electrician
unsafe.
friend of theirs who told them that he could make a serviceable full weekend power system out of 2 of those batteries.
Yeah,
and some.
because before it
did
only
some
lasted
fancy
2
stuff.
days, and now it lasts 4 days, so they can go an entire show
Wow.
with just the one charge.
That does not sound safe.
It does, yeah. It looks a little questionable, but the effect, the end result is pretty awesome. They've got a lot of lights.
So when you guys want to do the podcast from a show, just borrow that setup.
Just borrow that.
Just borrow that. Say, can I use your power for an hour, and then go from there. I've done.
All
I've
their
done,
lights dimmed down.
Yeah.
I did and part of what got me into this setup specifically was that we did do a weekend of podcasting at C4 a couple of years ago. We were the Manitoba Podcast Network at the time, and it was myself and a couple of other like-minded individuals who enjoyed. We all had our own podcasts, and basically we all kind of went in on the table. It was like a club table, so it wasn't too expensive, and we just took turns doing podcasts over the course of the weekend, and then we'd go over and grab people from tables and bring them back and interview them. So that's kind of what. And the guy who had the equipment for that, a guy named Mike Haynes, had this kind of a setup. So it worked really well. And we also had a microphone set up like on a stand that kind of faced outwards, so anybody could walk up to the microphone and talk to us and stuff, which was great. And I remember I wasn't there, but at the time, it was the year that Rene Auberjonois was there. Is that how you say his last name? Odo, basically.
Yeah.
Odo from Deep Space Nine. And apparently, he walked right up to the table and was looking at the setup and everything. And I was listening to it because we were streaming live. I was in my car driving somewhere at the time, and the host kind of, I guess, blanked because he was starstruck by the guy coming up. And I'm like, put him on, talk to him. What are you doing? You know. Anyway, whatever. That was. But it's a lot of fun, and certainly people really enjoy being a part of the conversation.
Well, and one of the reasons for this is that for the last year, I've been writing and illustrating and doing shows full time. But before that, for the 9 years before that, I've been a classroom teacher, and the one thing that I've been missing the most is the capacity to
Warp minds.
Yeah, no, share some of the stuff that we do. Also, turn people into your unholy army of the night. And I just thought, and I used to blog, so these a lot, and I haven't had really the impetus to do either of those things in the way that I'd like to do it. And then it just sort of struck me that I've always wanted to do a podcast, and maybe it could fill the niche of those two sort of desires in how I spend my creative time, sharing some ideas with people who don't know those things, and cataloging some of my time. My friend Sam Biko, who has her own podcast, Business BFFs, her and Claire Marshall, I was talking with her about starting this, and I said at the very least it will become a interesting audio time capsule to my kids of stuff their crazy dad was up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely agree with the blogging thing. I used to also blog quite a bit, but it's hard to dedicate time to writing every week. And if you get paid to do it, then you can spend all day writing an article. But to do that full time and then to set aside time to blog, it's just too tough. This is easy. This is like sit down, have a conversation, post it. Very, very straightforward, and comes much easier to me than blogging.
Yeah, my wife has a weekly blog. She does fashion and inspirational posts, and she spends a lot of thinking time building up to it. I'm a little jealous of her capacity to write on the fly. She'll just think for a long time and then sit down for an hour or two and just hit the marks.
That's nice. That's a nice talent to have.
Yeah, but to do a well-done blog, like the ones that I read and follow, I know people are working really hard at it. And there's something a little bit more visceral about a podcast and a conversation.
Yeah.
Like we can put Justin on the spot. Like, tell us something embarrassing about your childhood.
Okay, so I had Spider-Man pajamas,
As
and
did most
I
of us.
loved my Spider-Man pajamas to the point where I would not want to take my Spider-Man pajamas off. So before kindergarten, it's nursery school, right? So for nursery school, oftentimes I had my Spider-Man pajamas on underneath my regular clothes. And this lasted until one day I needed to be Spider-Man at school, so I took my clothes off, revealing my Spider-Man pajamas. And I remember having a conversation with Mom after that, and I wasn't allowed to wear my Spider-Man pajamas.
See, now, depending on
school
who's
and-
listening, I think at least half of the people listening consider that to be a badge of honor, not a embarrassing story.
The other question is, what was the conversation between the teacher and your mom? That's what I want to know.
I don't remember the teacher being overly bothered by it. I remember Mom being a little more embarrassed. But I remember Mrs.
Your mom didn't know you did this?
You pulled this off without your mother's knowledge?
No, well, I did it while I was at school.
Yeah.
And then the teacher told Mom afterwards. Or no. I don't think the teacher told Mom. It was I went to school with my first cousin was in the class, and my first cousin told my aunt, who told my mom.
Oh, that's how it happens.
It made its way back through the grapevine.
Round and round she goes.
Yeah.
This insightful chasing artwork story has been brought to you by Super Pulp Science.
Super Pulp Science.
I'm starting a online magazine. I wanted to dip into Patreon a little bit, but I didn't want to do it in a giant multi-tier new business.
Yeah.
I produce anywhere between 30 and 50 pages of comics in a given month, and about half of those are for clients, and the other half are creator-owned projects. And I wanted a capacity to share some of that work before I had to put it in print. So we're doing Super Pulp Science magazine as a $5 subscription, and then you get all that creator-owned content before it sees print. So sort of a year early, between 6 months and a year early.
Is your best case scenario with Patreon that becomes like a main source of income? Do you is that something you're?
You know what? It goes backwards. When I looked at why Patreon in this particular instance, it wasn't because I was hoping to get paid some, huge amount of money from a bunch of people. It was that it became a really easy way to have people come to one place and download something and have access to creator-owned content in a way that was a little bit more proprietary. I have a lot of quote-unquote free content on Twitter and Instagram, but I wanted to put some more meaty, specific content in a place that wasn't a blog, because I don't want to talk about how I'm doing it. I just want to show it. So the new issue has a whole bunch of my character design work from a new graphic novel I'm doing for Portage and Maine. It has a unseen Ghost Doctor 13 story. It has a character that I've sort of made up or re-skinned, if you will, called the Invincible Atlas, in a very Super Pulp Science story. And it's just my way of sort of playing around with all the stuff I like without any of the rules that a publisher normally gives you.
Yeah, no, I like that. And Patreon has become this great platform for independent creators to get some revenue for this stuff. It's a good way for people to show their appreciation for the creator. But yeah, you want to get some money. There's value to this content. And part of the issue with this is what's facing the print industry as far as journalism is concerned. People don't assign a value necessarily to that content, so they don't want to pay for it. But people should want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting. I had a moment yesterday walking. So we're here in the Exchange District, the heart of Winnipeg, and I'm doing a project with the Faculty of Medicine right now.
Oh, nice.
A book called Medicine. But so I walk from here to the HSC campus,
right,
which is, I don't know, about 5-8 blocks. And so I'm walking along, and I'm thinking a lot about Gord Downey. He just passed away, and I'm, humming those songs to myself as I'm walking along. And I see his face staring at me from the sidewalk. I look down, and there's a newspaper coverage of Gord Downey. I thought, oh, well, I got a little bit of a walk. I pick it up off the ground. It's written by Melissa Martin, someone who I know tangentially, but she's a fantastic writer. And as I'm reading it and just really enjoying all of her pontifications about this very sad moment, I realize what a jerk I am, because I picked it up as trash in the wind, and I can't remember the last time I sought out a newspaper.
Yeah, no, it's a real problem for the industry, and they have to solve it. It's not do you read newspapers at all, Justin?
Never.
Yeah, it's something for a younger person like yourself. It's more common that they'll get news from social media, from Twitter, from whatever. The idea of actually going out and buying a newspaper is so foreign to a lot of younger people. And this is a whole other podcast we could do on the state of the print industry as far as journalism goes. But it is, you're not a jerk for doing that. That's even before the internet, that was something that would happen, right? You would have done that 20 years ago. You'd be walking down the street and pick up a newspaper and read it. But what you could do is go get a subscription to the Winnipeg Free Press.
Yeah. So I guess a part of the sort of the roundabout way is why I bring that up is that people can find things now in unexpected ways. And a podcast in some regards, and doing Super Pulp magazine as a Patreon is that sort of thing. Likely what will happen, because I'm going to release it as PDFs, is that as soon as someone has one, they'll post it somewhere else on the internet.
For free.
Yeah. For free.
Yeah.
Right? And so my content will become the fluttering newspaper in the wind.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Like, the part of me that recognizes that you can't keep it in the bottle. Justin, your stuff gets stolen all the time. How do you feel about it?
It used to really bug me, and I have this conversation with people at conventions a lot. Their stuff will get taken and put on, the best case scenario gets put on those wallpaper sites where it's just, they take popular stuff from the internet and they post it up for people to download from a wallpaper site, and they don't cite the artist.
Like, you mean computer wallpaper, right?
Yeah, computer wallpaper. Yeah. Worst case scenario is all those companies that sell it as canvases or posters, or like, if you go on, eBay, Etsy, there's hundreds of sites that have limited sales where they just take popular stuff from the internet and they plop it on something and they print it. And the horrible thing is, other than it being stolen, is they're taking low quality images, putting it on a t-shirt and selling it to people. So people are getting these horrible, grainy quality images.
What I find funny, I'm going to interrupt you. What I find funny about that is what really upsets you. Like, people can't see his face right now, so I'll just describe to you. The only time in this story where pain was evident was this notion that a low resolution image of his work would represent him somehow.
Would you find that the people who do that kind of thing wouldn't care that it's low res, or?
I think, if you're semi-internet savvy, you can immediately tell that one of these sites is clearly just a site that rips off other people, because they have just a crazy range of stuff, all just from every corner of the internet. So they're really easy to spot, that it's obviously not the artist and it's not a legit company. They just have whatever they thought was cool looking.
What about your work being in the wind like that, though? Does that bother you?
I like it. I think that has a lot to do with how much my stuff has gotten around. It really it struck me. I went to an Australia convention 2 years ago, and people recognized I have this Cloud and Sephiroth image that I did in a lunch hour, probably 10 years ago now, in 2008 or 9. I did a Cloud and Sephiroth, I Will Never Be a Memory wallpaper print. And it got picked up by a bunch of wallpaper sites, and it's just been around the internet a lot. And in Australia, people were recognizing it. And as a kid who grew up on a farm in rural Manitoba, that's so cool. It sucks that people are stealing it on the internet, but at the end of the day, that affects me as much as I want it to.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't
Better
really...
to make new work than police old work?
Yeah.
Now, the first time I saw that happen of your work in a way that I was like, whoa, Stan Winston Studios posted, I forget what piece it was of yours, but I remember the phrase that they posted underneath it was studio inspiration for today. And it was a piece of Justin Currie artwork. And I was just like, whoa, but they didn't cite his. They didn't cite him either.
They were posting it as though it was their own?
No, they were just saying, here's some stuff that we're using in the studio to inspire the work that we're doing today. And it was Justin's work.
Do you remember what piece it was, Justin?
I think it was the Auto Avengers.
Was it Auto Avengers?
Yeah, it was when I redesigned a bunch of Batman characters, and then I went on to the Avengers and redesigned these characters as robots. And Stan Winston liked them. I think after that, they posted and credited me because
and then what happened in the comments underneath it, which I thought was so cool, a legion of people who knew your work posted links and credit. They're like, oh, that's Justin Currie's work. Oh, that's Justin Currie's work. Here, chasing artwork. Link. And so there's a democratization of that policing effect, I think, that happens with fans. You know, if you're big enough to be stolen, you might also be big enough to be defended by the people who like you.
That's pretty cool. I like that idea. Big enough to be stolen from.
Yeah.
It's a mark of honor now that people are stealing your work. The other thing I wonder about is people who, and maybe this is a conversation for another podcast on its own, but people who, the idea of fan art versus original art at conventions, and you see a lot of.
Yeah, we do a whole show or three about that. I think
so.
Do you really? Yeah. So
we're gonna.
Okay, so
sure.
let's put a pin in it then. Let's. But it's an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed. And I'm sure everyone who goes to cons on a regular basis notices this as well.
I think that argument is much more. I used to be very black and white about the argument.
You were.
But it's much more nuanced than I ever suspected. Having spent, the last 12 months at 25 or so shows, I see it much more differently than when I did 3 or 4 shows.
Yeah, like for example, Justin, you take characters and put a twist on them. I'm looking around, I'm seeing, is that Voltron over there?
It's the Gundam Unicorn.
Oh, okay,
it's a common mistake. Yeah, people think it's Optimus Prime.
I know
or
it looks a
Voltron,
little bit like Voltron.
Yeah.
But that's an existing character. Now you put your own unique twist on it, and you have another one. My son has actually one of your Iron Man.
The steampunk Iron Man.
Yeah, he loves that print. He's got that up in his room. So that's like an existing Marvel character that you put an interesting and different twist on. But does that mean that are you allowed to do that because it's a Marvel character?
Let me answer that for you as a sidebar. That work that you're referencing and that question, which I think is one for a whole podcast, has Justin currently working for Marvel.
There you go.
Right now.
Marvel referenced my fan art as they. Yeah, so I'm currently working for Marvel on concept art for one of the upcoming films.
You can say what it is. I can bleep it out. It's okay.
I'm not allowed. I shouldn't. So I'm not allowed.
I just want to know what it is.
Everybody, cover your ears. No, but in the process of what they wanted me to do with this character, they referenced all these pieces of fan art from my DeviantArt as like, this is why we want you, because you did this. And here's what you did with this character. Like, can you do something like that with this character? And so it was kind of like, it was surreal. The amount of and same with like when I worked with Blizzard too. Like they referenced my fan art was why I got hired.
So your creative vision matches their creative vision in a way, or inspires their creative vision, right? They said, "Oh, this is a great direction. We want to take this character in this direction. Show us what that would look like." Yeah, that's so cool.
Well, and the example that Justin's used in the past, which I can't help but agree with, is that when a band starts out, usually they start out doing cover songs.
Yep, that's good.
Right?
That's very good.
They do cover songs until they have enough of their own material. And in the last couple of years, Justin's been producing a lot of his own material and doing less of the fan art. So, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to be here in the studio with him and to see it happening.
It's great. And I was just realizing that we got off our topic of podcasting, which does happen during podcasts. We're off on a tangent, but that's okay. That's allowed to happen.
Super.
What are some tips that you can give us for, should a show have a theme? Should a show have a specific topic? How do you wrangle people back on topic?
Do people come for the theme, or do they come for the people talking? Do they come for the guests?
A little bit of both, a little bit of all that, but really, so I think that the best way to do it is to have each show have a central theme or topic, like each episode rather have a central topic or theme.
Speaking of which, I just want to sidebar for a sec. When I first started listening to podcasts, all I wanted, because I was also starting out as like into Comic-Cons, I wanted a podcast talking about how to get into Artist Alley and how to like do Artist Alley. And I found a whole bunch of kind of like meandering, not quite talking about anything in particular, just really broad strokes. So I want to do an entire thing on like very specifically how you get in, how you set up, how to print, how to sell, how to
Well, and you've been doing this full time now 5 years, right? So you'll be able to create the podcast you always
that
wish.
I always wanted. That I just remember the frustration of finding all these like Artist Alley podcasts that didn't say anything that I think should be said.
So just if I can offer a suggestion there, what I think you should do in that case is, you don't have to write it down, we're recording this. So
I'm a note guy.
That's me making notes. A great thing to do for that would be to take a digital recorder with you to a con and just record stuff. Just record everything. You guys have you ever listened to Serial?
Oh, I love
or S-Town is another one.
Oh.
So the best thing, the phenomenal shows, and they're really well produced and everything. But the part of the thing I love the most about those shows is they record everything, and you get a good sense of the conversations and the environment these people are in. There's two moments. One from Serial, where the part where they're recreating the route from the Best Buy to the
drive it. Yeah,
it became such an iconic thing and very popular at the time. Everyone was talking about the Best Buy and the phone booth and all that stuff. There's this moment where she's trying to work it out. Sarah Koenig is trying to work out in her head. She's talking out loud. And then her producer says, there's a shrimp sale at the Crab Crib. And it's just a complete aside. She just saw a sign that said that and just said it out loud. But it was hilarious because that's the kind of stuff that happens in conversation. Right. There's another one in S-Town where the guy's interviewing, I guess, this one family, and he's got this uncle who had some sort of brain injury. I think he was shot in the head or something at one point and has a bit of a brain injury. And have you heard this podcast?
No.
Okay,
it's good.
It's completely not relevant to the story, but you have to explain it because this guy, part of the result of his injury is that he just yells things out. He doesn't have much of a filter, so he's like, yeah, and he just kind of he's really loud. Yeah. And so you have to explain that because this guy's talking in the background and you don't know what's going on. So that whole scene is really well set by the audio. So if you take a recorder with you, you don't have to interview people or anything. You can just sit there and and maybe you're talking through your setup and you're talking with other people where to go and that kind of stuff, and just pick and choose your audio and use it in the podcast. Because
so if we were going to do that, what kind of gear do we need?
Any digital recorder. I would go a little bit better than your phone, although phones are pretty good these days for audio. But you can get a good digital recorder for pretty cheap. Digital audio recorder.
So it has a microphone built in.
Yeah.
And it has a storage built in.
Yeah, it's a USB, a SD card usually or something like that. And audio doesn't take up a lot of space, so that's good.
Is there not a good some kind of adapter to the iPhone?
Yeah. You can actually buy microphones like this. Actually, a microphone like this that will hook into your iPhone. So there's that as well. It's all about the input, right? It's all about the recording device and the microphone. Mm-hmm. But the reason I'm saying all of this is because one of the best parts, I think, of a good podcast is having audio other than the people talking.
Right.
Now, this is fine. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk for 45 minutes to an hour, and that's fine. But if you can break it up with something else that's relevant to the conversation, I think that really makes things interesting.
So in that regard, though, does that not then add to the edit time? Let's talk about the back end of making a podcast a little bit. Once you were done here today, right, you have graciously agreed to handle our back end.
Yes.
So what have you actually... Oh, okay, I didn't mean that the way it sounded, Justin. Come on.
I just got that. It took me 2 seconds to get that.
Some of us are going to progress as mature adults.
Okay.
And some of us don't have to.
I'm wearing Spider-Man pajamas in my clothes right now.
Amazing. Okay, so what do you have to do when we're done?
Well, this one is a pretty straightforward conversation, so probably not a lot of editing involved. I mean, we could talk about... I've heard podcasts where they play little clips and stuff, and they have a bit of a soundboard feel where a lot of it is done live. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Jay and Dan podcast. It's Jay Henry and Dan O'Toole. It's a sports podcast. Don't worry about it. They're just really funny guys. Do you know who I'm talking about? Those two guys, Jay Henry and Dan O'Toole. They were two sportscasters. They were on TSN here in Canada, and a couple years ago they got a big deal in the States, and they went down to Fox Sports 1. And their trademark is their hilarious kind of highlight reel banter. They do these really funny highlight reel things. So they went down there for a few years, and when they were down there, they started a podcast as these two Canadian guys in the States, in L.A., and it's really funny. It's a hilarious podcast, and their producer puts these little sound clips in, and I can't tell if they're live or not. I suspect they're not, but to me, it's not the right kind of audio you want in a situation like that. It just seems like, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea, I guess. But
So we go out there with a digital recorder of some sort, and we take some snippets that we think are on theme. Then we send those to you. How do you get it from the device?
Oh, yeah.
Does it come out by USB? Or?
Yeah, you can send me the USB, or you can just Dropbox it to me or something. That kind of stuff is easy.
You say that, but you're a busy person.
Yeah, but I can. Well, the thing is, this kind of stuff, I've been doing it long enough that it's pretty effortless for me to do this kind of work. And the beauty of a podcast like this is that there isn't a whole lot of editing. I'm not going to go in there and edit out all the albums like the one I just did. That's
right.
That's just part of a conversation.
Right.
What I might do is, if we're at a point where I forget something and I lose my train of thought and I'm we just have some silence there, I might cut out that gap Just to, no, I'm going to leave it in to prove my point. But that kind of stuff, I might tighten it up a little bit.
Right.
I'm not going to modify the conversation. I'm not going to like go in there and micromanage the thing. I'm just going to listen through to it. Basically, I give it a once listen through, and then anything that pops up, I kind of make a note and highlight something I might want to change, or I just change it. Another thing I'll do, and I don't know if you guys want me to do this or not, but a lot of podcasts will have show notes where they have a little mark in the podcast where the conversation changes to a different topic. And some people do that. Yeah, because some people
ahead.
Yeah, some people really enjoy that. I'm a fan of just listening to the entire podcast, but some people like to get to the good stuff, right? So we could do that as well.
That's a neat idea.
Yeah.
I also like the idea of being able to steal snippets of people's wisdom from the show floor and then share it and discuss it.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a fun.
Putting a little streeter together, that'd be a lot of fun.
Like I had the marvelous interaction with Jim Steranko. I wish I had recorded the whole thing.
Yeah.
But even just 2 or 3 sentences from that guy, we could talk about for weeks, I bet.
There's another podcast done by a former student of mine. His name is Jason Dewick, and it's called the Infinity Plus One podcast. It's produced by Geekdom House. Are you familiar with Geekdom House?
Yeah, I
so
know
you know Geekdom House?
Yeah.
Kyle Rudge and those guys.
They featured my stuff a couple. Yeah, I've dealt with them.
It's a really good organization. They have kind of this. Anyway, so they do this podcast, and so they have a question of the week kind of thing, and they basically ask everybody involved the question and get answers. And when they were at, and I'm going to plug my own con again, FanQuest, but when they were there, again, Jason had to set up with a microphone facing out from his booth, and he just basically asked people, I think the question was, what's your favorite Star Wars moment? Right? Because he just wanted to get, and he put together this really nice kind of montage of responses, and you know, people had different ideas, and even when something came up often, like for a lot of people, it's the "I am your father" moment, and that came up quite often. Right. He kind of ran a bunch of those back to back, and it's really cool. You can do a lot of fun stuff with audio like that. So anyway, getting back to your original question, it's not a huge time investment for me because I really enjoy doing it. So this is the kind of stuff that I like. I'll do it for my own podcast. I do 2 podcasts a week.
Okay,
and
so
I still do that stuff.
As a creative person who has a studio, and I enjoy doing it too, there's only so many hours in the day. So we're here for, it'll be probably an hour and a half all told by the time you're out of here, right? Yeah. For setup and takedown. Dan's come to the studio to do this recording. When you get back, then what's the actual minute count of how much work you'll have to do?
I can keep track of it for you if you want. I can let you know.
And then we can share with people.
I suspect it'll be another hour and a half probably, because it'll be an hour to listen through, and then another half hour for podcast for posting. We still have to talk about the platform you want to post these episodes on. We didn't talk about that.
So what kind of? Let's jump to that.
Okay. Well, I've got, and actually I have a couple options up here, and I'll just bring it up. Hopefully, I'm not connected to the internet, but I still have the pages open. And I had suggested to you guys, so when you podcast, you have to host the sound somewhere. It's not like YouTube where you can just upload stuff for free. That doesn't exist for audio. The closest thing to it.
So weird.
I know. Well, I mean,
Isn't
YouTube.
that $1 million idea? Can't we make that site?
Well, how do you make money off of it though? YouTube kind of did this thing, and then Google bought it and monetized it with the advertising.
Right.
Nobody's managed to do that for audio because every podcast has their own advertising. It just evolved differently.
Oh, because they have their own advertising contracts.
So YouTube, they came into this agreement, like you post videos, but we get to put our advertising on it, and that's the way they structured it. It just doesn't exist for audio, so you have to pay for it. So if you have a substantial amount, like a lot of people will say SoundCloud. Now they have a free. I'm looking at their plan here. The free SoundCloud plan is you get 3 hours of content. So that would be 3 episodes of your podcast, and that would be it.
Yeah,
they cut you off. Not enough. So, but if you're a musical artist and you want to put your songs on there,
that's 3 hours.
That's a good amount. That's a good amount of music you could put up there for a demo or something like that.
3 albums or whatever.
Yeah. So then they have the next stage, which is the Pro, and that's $6 a month or $55 a year, and that gives you 6 hours of content.
What?
Still not enough for us, right? Okay, so for SoundCloud, the Pro Unlimited plan, and this is kind of where they all want you to go, right? You can tell, look at all these check marks and the thing where, look at all these, you get all these things with this. So it's unlimited storage. So that's really what you guys want. Now, you will be putting out, I assume this is a weekly podcast?
We'd like to do it weekly. Okay. It sort of depends on your availability and our availability.
Okay.
But if not weekly, then bi-weekly for sure.
Okay, so say we do it weekly, and it's an hour-long episode. So an hour-long MP3 is about 70 megabytes. And so you would need, I think I figured it out to about 6 gigabytes per year of storage space. Or, I mean, if you think about a weekly podcast, that's 52 hours of content. So the unlimited is certainly a good plan here. And the thing I like about SoundCloud is they have a really good shareable platform where you can share right from the website to any other platform.
I think that's pretty key. We don't want to be directing people to somewhere else to go listen to it. We just want to be able to like post the link on, our several sites.
Well, are these things we need to consider? Like, I assume we'll be able to have it through our, through your proprietary Apple services, and you'll be able to have it outside of that if you so choose.
Yeah, I mean, people like to listen to podcasts how they like to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's either through the iTunes app on your iPhone. We submit an RSS feed to that, and then there's also Google Play on the Android devices, so we submit a feed to that as well. And then probably you can have it on your website and on your social media, your Facebook, Twitter. And the beauty of SoundCloud is it shows up there as a player. So all you have to do is if it pops up and I see the tweet from you, I just hit play, and it's right there on Twitter, and I can just play it off of that if I want to. Like
so
it's
now
all.
What kind of analytics do you get from that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because you have this is another difference between the plans. So if you have the basic plan for free, all you get is the number of times it's played, how many times it's liked, reposted, comments, and downloads. If you go to the next one, you get who played it the most, and by country, you can find out who's listening for countries around the world. If you dive into the full plan, you get breakdown by city, so you can see who's listening in which city across. The world.
That's interesting because we visit,
Yeah.
so many different cities. It'd be interesting to see. Oh, that's
I'm sure that you guys would see a kind of a spike in whatever city you visited if you're promoting the podcast at your tables, which you probably should do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like that the price
We're
for all
into
that
shameless
stuff.
self-promotion.
Yeah, no, that's all. That's good. It's key to success. So it's like I said, it's $145 a year. For SoundCloud. Now, Libsyn, which is what I use for my 2 podcasts, because I post 2 weekly podcasts, each of which are an hour long, and we just needed more space.
So 104 hours of content.
Yeah, and so, but they do it differently. It's a little strange, and this is kind of, I'm actually, now that I'm looking at SoundCloud, I might want to switch over to SoundCloud, just because I'm looking at this stuff.
Hey, SoundCloud, if you're listening, we would love to be a product endorser.
There you go. This podcast brought to you by SoundCloud. And I'm looking at this going, okay, so it's 800 megabytes of monthly storage, and that's the key thing. So what happens is I upload a certain amount of audio per month, and if I hit that mark, 800 megabytes, I'm not allowed to upload anymore until the beginning of the next month.
So you can't build a cushion.
You can't upload, like if I had, the problem with that is if I have like 100 episodes in backlog, I can't just upload them all there. It's about posting regular content.
Yeah, so for us, to help us work through this, there'll be some weekends where we're away or traveling or, gathering content. And so when we come back, we may want to record 2 or 3 back-to-back episodes.
Yeah.
But then you'd want to upload them.
No, well, you could like going through the other way through SoundCloud, you could just upload them whenever you wanted.
Right.
This one you would have to wait until the next, if you were already at your limit for your space, you'd have to wait until next month to upload it. So it's a little bit limiting in that way. But they do give you really kick-ass analytics, and I can dig down right into my analytics and see exactly where people are. Although it seems like SoundCloud gives me almost the same thing, but Libsyn is a very well-known. It's probably the oldest podcast hosting platform out there. And the other one I have here is you can just use a WordPress account, a basic WordPress account, and you can upgrade your storage on WordPress. So basically, you can upload the episode, you can upload the sound file right to WordPress, and you have to have a minimum of 6 megabytes per year or 6 gigabytes per year, and that would be a premium account, which is $10 a month. So about $120 a year. So a little bit cheaper than SoundCloud, but I don't think you get the analytics that they give you. You don't get the stats and that kind of thing.
Right.
So there's that. But that's another. People who already have a WordPress site like to use that because it's an existing platform that they use, and they're okay with that.
Right.
So it's all about preference, right? But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing that you do have to pay for. So there is a cost associated not only for the equipment but also for the hosting of the sound.
Super Pulp.
You're a guy who runs a couple of different things and does lots of fan-related community related things. So, and you're giving us this time. And so I feel like that we need to somehow reciprocate. So I'm just doing some math here. So if it takes you about 2 hours a week to do your thing, and our work, it takes us about 8 hours, give or take, to do a page of illustration.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So maybe we could do some quid pro quo where at the 6 month mark, we could do some exclusive content for, say, FanQuest.
Oh, that'd be
one
nice.
Of those things,
I would love that.
Some stuff where we scratch each other's back with what we both like to do. Like, to me, that doesn't seem like work. Like, to you, your eyes lit up and you're like, wow, that seems like generous.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
to me, it'd be fun. The same way that when I said, hey, do you want to help us with our podcast? You were like, yeah, that'd be fun. But
Exactly.
to me, it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
No, that sounds great.
Let's trade joys then.
Quid pro
Are you down for
quo,
that?
Clarice.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
That made me think of the Silence of the Lambs, but that's okay.
With your good bag and your cheap shoes.
Such a good movie. Okay, yeah. So what do you guys think? Do you think SoundCloud is the way to go for this, or do you want me to show you this in more detail?
Let's
or?
go for it.
Okay.
I said let's go for it. And if we change, dear listeners, we'll tell you how and why.
The beauty is that no matter, even if you do change it, you can still, like, the feed can be modified. So even if people subscribe to you on iTunes, it's all through an RSS feed. So you can go in and change the feed details and so people don't have to resubscribe. You can go to a new site, host it on WordPress, change that in the feed, and then it goes out.
Right.
The great thing about the feed is that you never have to do it. Unless that happens, you don't have to do anything with it.
Right.
Once you set it up, all you do is post an episode, and it automatically
Goes
out there. And that's the
what
best
I
thing. And that is, by the way, the definition of a podcast is an episodic piece of audio or video, because there are video podcasts, although we don't think of them that way. That is you are able to subscribe to via an RSS feed. That is the actual definition of a podcast.
So where does the name? I always found it fascinating, this idea of the blog, right? Coming from originally weblog,
yep.
right? So podcast. Is there without Googling it, is there a way?
No, I know that I
from?
teach this. It's the pod is simply from iPod. It was at the time.
Really?
Yeah, Apple got on board with this early on. So the first podcast started coming out around 2004. Is when it really started becoming a more.
Is that new?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I always imagined
Well,
it
I mean,
as being longer.
people have been recording
In the
their
dark
audio,
web.
but I'm sure on the dark web there's some stuff out there. But as far as it becoming a popular kind of well-known thing, 2004 is the first iterations of it, and then Apple the next year, Apple included podcast subscription services and stuff in iTunes in their update, and that of course is going back to when we actually had to plug our iPhones into our computer and download our songs onto our iPhone and that kind of stuff. Now we don't have to worry about that. But the pod came from iPod because people would listen to them on their iPods. And that's all it is. And it's a cast. It's just a podcast broadcast. That's kind of the idea. It just stuck. It was just a name that stuck. So, and Apple is kind of intertwined with it now because, and by the way, it is my favorite way to listen is through the Apple iTunes app. I had an Android phone for a while. Is that an Android or is it an Apple? You guys are all Apple users?
We're all
in here?
Apple, yeah.
Okay. Creative types like Apple products. But
until the new one, I heard that there's no cords, no plugins, no.
Man, I can tell you this whole. I understand what Apple's trying to do with the whole get rid of the cords thing, but I had students do presentations today in class, and half of them have the new MacBooks, and all they have is the USB 3 connector, and I have like a Thunderbolt. They have to plug into my decade-old projector in the classroom, and they don't have the right thing for it, so it's a problem now. We're gonna have to get.
Interesting because Apple used to be very much focused on the classroom environment and making that work.
Well, they want us all to get
just don't
Apple
care
TVs.
anymore,
No, they want us all to buy Apple TVs for our projectors so that we can just stream it, AirPlay it to the projector, but we don't have that kind of money over at the college yet.
Yeah,
so
right.
Anyway, but yeah, I think that I forget what we were talking about. That's what happens to me a lot.
Okay, so then what do? You're in the podcast. You've lost your train of thought.
That's the great thing about it. Again,
Justin is looking at his phone.
Yep.
You don't know what we're talking about. What do we do? What do you do?
We were
Do you
talking
cut
about.
the
I was
commercial?
talking. No, well, you could actually. But the beauty of podcasting is that it's all very informal, so people forgive this kind of thing. It's not like there's no expectation to be. I don't say no expectation to be professional, but it's okay to be, have faults and to screw up and to
be human.
Yeah, exactly. But you're just a regular person having a conversation. So this kind of stuff, it's okay. People can cut it out if they want, and some people do, but I don't usually because it's all part of the experience.
Right.
So, and then I just say that's just my excuse because I'm lazy and I don't want to do that kind of stuff. But
right.
I like including that kind of thing. I do.
It's the parts that I find the podcasts I listen to, like we talked about earlier, when it gets a little bit more raw, it endears me to the podcaster. As long as they're not a complete jackass, anyway.
We'll see.
We'll see.
It's the first episode. Let's take it easy. And
People are going to tune in for the back and forth.
Yeah, well, and we have these long cords. So what's interesting about it, Dan, is we could be often in the studio, Justin's sitting way on that end of the room, and I'm sitting over here, and we banter. We could have a great banter.
you could do you could just record the conversation in here.
Because I mean, some of this came up where we would be talking about when we first started going to shows and stuff we figured out, or when I first started submitting to publishers, the things I figured out. We've been sharing our kind of life history as we shared this past year in the studio together, and we would pause and say I bet other people, if they knew this, they could skip ahead.
I wish somebody told me this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we want to do that as much as possible.
Yeah, I like that. And it's funny that you talk about that being kind of the impetus behind this podcast, because that's the same conversation Kenton and I had when we started Media Nerds, which was our first podcast. And it's been 5 years now that we've been doing it. And he's like, because we would have these awesome conversations about TV, movies, and just the media in general, news, how things are covered. It's just part of our conversation at work. And so he's like, we should just record these conversations. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we just figured out and started recording it. And yeah, it was rough in the beginning, but you absolutely get better at it. And I have to say, for a first episode, this is going very well.
Uh-oh.
I think we got a
first episode jinx it.
I think we got a postable. We have a postable episode here.
Both say, "Oh no."
Well, it's funny because our first episode of Media Nerds will never see the light of day. That is such an awful piece of what. It's just not it's not ever gonna be posted. I don't even know if I still have it on my computer.
No. Speaking of, what? Are we allowed to swear? Is this PG-13?
I think we should PG-13 this.
PG-13
I feel like, because there's a bunch of podcasts I'd like to listen to in the car with my kids on the way to work, but I can't.
Yeah, that's true. Although my kids complain whenever I put any podcast on. They're like, nope, they don't want to listen to it. So.
Well, I've put on some of the I really like podcasts that I enjoy include retelling of old mythologies or pulp radio broadcasts, and so those are more or less safe. But what they respond to the most is the old ads, like a bunch of podcasts that I listen to that are just collections of old radio programs.
Oh, that's a great
with the ads included.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, Dad, what's blue coal and why is it heating the house? Like, what are they talking about? I'm like, well, people had furnaces and you had to light it and burn it, and they're like, but no, what? So
I love explaining old media to my kids or old advertising and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Justin, what are some of your favorite podcasts that you listen to?
I haven't been listening to many podcasts lately.
Puts on YouTube videos. You listen to a lot of YouTube audio.
Usually when I'm working, a good kind of go-to just to zone out is people reviewing really old, terrible movies. So Red Letter Media is a big one.
I've seen them, yeah.
Aren't they also drunk at the time?
Sorry?
Aren't they also drunk at the time?
They usually drink while they review old movies. And the old retro games, like the Angry Video Game Nerd just plays old, terrible games and just talks about how terrible they are.
And you play this while you're working,
it's usually kind of on in the background. It's something I glance over every once in a while.
You don't have to be visually engaged in it to understand.
No, usually when we talked, we said before, once kind of the bare bones of the piece is figured out, then it's probably 4 to 5 hours of just kind of the grunt work. What you need to do, you're just doing it.
So you grunt work might be, gradients or color theory or just layering the file over and over and over to build up what you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you just have to do it.
Yeah.
You're right. But you don't have to.
But no, sir, what I'm saying is that for the YouTube content, you obviously you're looking at what you're drawing, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not looking at the YouTube video. And you told me.
He has this starship kind of setup here where he has his view screen that
it's right there.
He controls, and then one that is so he'll glance. So I always I've been fascinated watching Justin work because that would to me be too much of a distraction. I cannot work in the way. The amount of focus he is able to zero in on his work while he's also has a video in his ears that the image is present, but he just can ignore.
Yeah.
I'm that guy who goes to a sports bar and I'm mesmerized by the flickering screens. I can't have a conversation.
Yeah, me too.
So when I want to watch media, we have it on the TV that's far away. I can ignore this one that's across the room.
Right.
But if it was with me on the desk here, no way.
I just want to say while we're on the topic, I'm looking at seeing two very different workspaces here with you guys. Yours seems very modern, and you've got the multiple screens and everything, and you've got a very old school desk here.
Yeah,
like how old is that desk?
That desk is more than 100 years old. This desk used to belong. I'll dig it up for another podcast. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was an old coin collector.
Okay.
My dad used to collect coins. Well, he still collects coins, but he loved the guy's desk. And when the coin collector that he used to deal with was retiring, he bought the man's desk. So this was my dad's desk in his study for my entire childhood growing up. And then when he moved, I told him, you know, there's a short list of things that I want for their pure nostalgic value. And so one of them is this. But what's cool about it is that it has a trick. The drawers trick out and lock. So if you open the drawers in the wrong or in the right order, it will lock the desk shut because it used to keep valuable things in
coins,
it, right? And you have to know the right order to open the drawers in order to unlock them.
Oh, very cool. That's
and
awesome.
I just thought, as a kid, that just fascinated me. So I work on this giant, big oak monstrosity.
But you've also got like a what is that? A skeleton of something there.
I also have a skeleton of a cat.
Oh,
lots of bones, old bones,
and a phrenology. Yeah. Is that phrenology on that head?
Phrenology head there, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, my workstation is more like wood and bones, and Justin's steel and glass.
And then too, so on top of this old desk, there is a MacBook Pro, and this
Luddite.
lunatic.
You can go ahead and say
this lunatic paints with a freaking trackpad.
Oh, I love it.
That's how he makes his paintings.
I draw with my
Mac
fingertips.
Trackpad. Meanwhile, over at my desk, I have a 2024 UX Cintiq that's about a couple years old, and then a second monitor. So I'm drawing right onto the screen with the Cintiq, and now I can never go back to anything other than drawing on a screen. I'm spoiled.
We had a fun moment where the difference in our age, which is about 10 years, really showed up here at the studio. Justin got a record player as a gift from Catherine, right?
Yeah.
So from his girlfriend, and I had to show him how to use the record player one night.
But
And then the same night, within
yeah.
a half an hour, I had to do something on his Cintiq. And I was like an angry old man trying to return soup at the deli, right? Like I could not figure out the ergonomics of it. I was afraid to touch the glass. I didn't want to lean on it. And he was just like, take a deep breath. He wouldn't help me. He refused to help me. Take a deep breath. In a half hour, you'll get it. And he was right. In a half hour, I was flying on.
Interesting. That's fun. I think it's about time to wrap up.
Okay.
Cool.
So I think this is a good first experiment in podcasting.
I hated it.
Yeah, I hate it. Good, because you need it to be punished.
Now, here's another thing. Before we wrap up, here's another question that haunts me every week, and I always have a tough time with it, is what do you name the episode? How do you want to name your episodes? Some people just go episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. I like to have a clever, kind of a funny thing.
Yeah,
some
This American Lifestyle name to it.
Yeah, some people go with
beginnings.
a quote that happens in the podcast that maybe that kind of encapsulates what it is.
So pull something out of the content.
Spider-Man pajamas.
Spider-Man pajamas.
I think we could. Yeah, that was what I was thinking too. Spider-Man pajamas.
I think that's
the
key.
name of the episode.
So if we're gonna sign off, you gave us a hint that we should have a closing phrase, which is something I say in my emails and at shows all the time. Is, ladies and gentlemen, you should join the fight and make comics.